Hi there, welcome to another week in Business 310. This week you're going to get to work on oral communication. So up until this point in class, we've really been focusing on the written components of communication. And this week we'll be looking at something a little bit different through this assignment called the elevator pitch. Whether you know it or not, I imagine that most of you have developed a pitch in the past or have had to deliver one impromptu. But we'll talk through some of the details here about how you can approach it for this class. I like to open this assignment by talking a little bit about the timing of a pitch. In some ways, it's the most crucial part. The image on the screen here is a scientific experiment of a really thick black substance called pitch that takes a very long time to drip. It's actually a liquid, but it takes 86 years for a drop to form. So you can imagine for the researchers, it's a big deal when it happens. Nice thing is you're going to be going faster than this kind of pitch. But you're not going to be going quite this fast. So this is the world record, at least as of today, for the fastball pitch by Airless Chapman of 106 miles per hour. Really fast arm on that one. Again, not quite at that extreme. For this assignment, and as is typically the case for a professional pitch in a business situation, the time frame to be thinking about is really 30 to 60 seconds. And it is helpful to think about those two numbers as the range. It's going to be risky to go a whole lot longer than that or much shorter than that. And so with a little practice, you should be able to have some different options that you can use to get a pitch or different versions of your pitch that fall within this time frame. A little bit here we'll say is that the main objective really with a pitch is thinking about the most important thing that the person listening to your message needs to hear. And the way to do that is to get some focus in terms of the message you want to communicate, whether that's, like in this case, presenting yourself as a professional or something that you want. Maybe it's you want to get that follow-up interview, or you want to get a job offer, or you want to just start negotiating a business contract and have a business relationship with this person. You're pitching your business idea. In any case, the verbal communication component here is really what's going to help make things work smoothly. So we'll go through a few of the details here for this assignment. Note that this is going to include both a recorded video component, that's the pitch perfect or the elevator pitch, and then a written reflection, which is just a short written memo where you reflect on some of the key points in the process. And here I'll cover both of them. It really is going to help to spend a little bit of time doing the brainstorming, or in communication, what we might call the invention work of thinking about what you want to say in your pitch and the order that you want to say it in. I encourage you to think about this maybe not so much as a script that you're going to memorize word for word, but instead more like an outline where you'll know the general points, the kind of landing pads that you're going to arrive at as you deliver the pitch. And if you need to take a pause like I just did in the moment of delivery, it works. This will tend to feel a little bit more what we might call natural or genuine, whereas a really scripted message will sound just like that, a script. And in most cases, it's actually more of a put-off than something that will work in your advantage. So the general outline that I would encourage, there is room to move this around and be flexible. Certainly start by introducing yourself. And this can be a one sentence. Hello, my name's Ryan Murphy. I'm an assistant professor of business communication at Cal State Channel Islands, something like that. Stating your worth or your value proposition. What is it that you're really bringing to the table? If you're hoping to get a job or a business negotiation, what is it that you're bringing forward that the other person or people listening will find interesting and valuable? Be sure then, after you have that, to spend the time tailoring the message to fit the audience. If your audience is technical and expects to know the technical details of what you're talking about, then go ahead and ramp that up. But if you're talking to a more general audience, you might want to be careful about being too overly technical, just as an example. Next, structure your content strategically. Usually in a pitch, besides the common things like introducing yourself and saying thank you at the end, there's all this space in the middle, even though it's only 30 to 60 seconds, where you can spend the time really figuring out what items you want to talk about, how much time you want to talk about each one, and then what order you want to talk through them in. So that's where the strategy really comes in. And then practicing. The goal here with practice, again, is not necessarily to memorize your pitch word for word, but to develop a sense of internalized confidence that comes from just being very familiar with the message. If you're very familiar with the message, you can speak through the message and you might actually say slightly different words each time you say it, but because you're confident in the message, you'll be able to get through it from start to finish. You'll be able to land all of your main points and then end with a kind of, again, air of confidence. That's really the goal. Some of you I know will have some background skills in different areas that could be very helpful for this assignment, and video editing is probably the most obvious example that I can think of. One thing I'll say is this: if you do have a background with video editing and you want to use those skills to your advantage, then go ahead and do so. It turns out that many job positions that I'm aware of are now calling for video recorded pitches like this, or video interviews that are pre-recorded as part of the application process. And so if you want to experiment with your video editing, that's great. You can use any software that you want to do this. And at the same time, I just want to kind of let everyone be rest assured that I don't expect you to do that. Really, in most cases, pitch is going to be something that you deliver in the moment. It's not something that you would have the opportunity to come back and edit. So perfection, or whatever idea of perfection you might have, isn't really what I expect. So to take off the pressure, you do not have to use video editing if you don't want to. And then the one last piece I'll say is this: since this is a communication class that includes both written and oral parts, this assignment also has got a short written part. By this point in this class, you've written a couple of different memos, and so hopefully that format of the memo, to, from, date, and subject, will feel easy to use, and then you can just go right in to address these points in any order that you want. I'll read them through quickly here, where you can just talk a little bit about some of the challenges maybe that came up either with creating a script or notes or strategizing your pitch. You can also talk a little bit about the process of creating a video recording. What was that like? How did things change once you get through your first draft and post it, and maybe see how other people in class have approached this topic? And especially those of you who will be getting feedback from your peers, how does that influence what your final pitch reads and sounds like? Are you happy with the way things have been going? Many people, I'll say, express a little bit of apprehension doing public speaking, and so maybe this video part lessens that apprehension for you. Or maybe it still is a little bit stressful. Having anxiety around speaking is very common, and so that's okay too. Go ahead and address all of these questions. You can spend as much or as little time as you need to, but the one highlighted piece here, this is probably new for many of you, is part of this assignment, I think, is really having the opportunity to give yourself some candid assessment in much the same way that an individual employee might be providing their own self-assessment in a workplace. So after you've worked for a quarter or a year and you have your semi-annual or annual review, and your hiring manager or your reviewing manager asks how you think you've been doing, you'll be able to actually have some real content and substance to be able to say, here's what I think I've done really well. Here's where things went smoothly and I thought I was able to shine. And these are the areas where I'd like to continue developing. Having a prepared answer like that is really going to go far. So be honest here. And generally what I say is be more generous with yourself than you think you might otherwise, since we do tend to be our own harshest critic. And I will actually follow for most cases, whatever point value you're assigning yourself. If I think it's within the reasonable range, that's actually the score that you'll get for this assignment. So stay tuned. I've got a few words, a little bit about the unique details for feedback and peer response for this assignment. I hope you have fun with the pitch, and I really hope you also enjoy seeing and hearing how your classmates approach this assignment as well.